look, the Colts they're in an interesting spot. Depends. I'm sure Houston would like a team like the Colts to move up and make a move, even though we agree that they should just pick Bryce Young.
Yep.
But it's that 3 spot where Arizona is, where they don't need a quarterback. So the question is, are they going to play that kind of hard ball? And hey, yeah, even though we're not going to, we want to trade out. The Colts would be the team that would, they be in a much better position being at 4. And I don't know. I just really do get the feeling that it's sort of like with Houston in a way. I think they would screw this up if they didn't get him. I just think, how can you not get Anthony Richardson if you're sitting there at 4 and there's only 3 quarterbacks and one team doesn't need a quarterback? You have to do, if Carolina did it from wherever they were at 8, you're at 4. You have to be able to make a deal to get Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I really hope this Lamar Jackson domino falls in the next week or two, because where is this guy playing this year? And is he not going to play? Like, is this going to be Deshaun Watson part 2? I mean, because the only team to me that makes real sense here is Indianapolis. And I actually remember talking about a trade in December with where he would go to, and that's where he ended up. It was a 3-way trade. He got a little more complex with other teams. But, Lamar in Indianapolis makes sense if Lamar wants to be there. And,
well, like you said, though, he may not have any options.
Right. As of right now, I'm just pretending he's not going anywhere. He's either not going to play or be in Baltimore. And because of that, it's got to be Richardson. And even though it's a risk, I mean, you're talking about, I hate drafting quarterbacks high that don't have a lot of experience. But this team has just been, they got to do this the right way. They got to stop trying. I mean, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, they're in position to get the quarterback. But the question is, are they happy with potentially their number 3 guy drafting a foot, the number 3
no,
graded?
True.
It's a tough thing to swallow.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think? I mean, would you, knowing what's coming next year, not that anything's a given.
Yeah.
Would you wait, or would you go, no, I think Anthony Richardson is worth taking him here?
I would not draft Richardson this high. And I would say, with the plan of we're going to get our quarterback next year. So
sure.
if I were the Colts, knowing you're probably going to struggle this year, in addition to, I would try to get out of this spot. Hopefully someone does want Richardson, and you can leverage that and stockpile as much capital as you can for next year, just in case you're sitting out of the top 3 or 4 or 5 and you really want, the kid from USC or UNC. You have enough capital to go up and get one of those guys. That's if you're talking about a new regime there in Indianapolis as well with the head coach. I think it gives you another year or two that it's okay if you blow this thing up for a year. And I think that's really I would much rather go down that risky path than the risky path of drafting Anthony Richardson.
But again, it's all going to depend, as we know, on how, more importantly, even Ballard, what Shane Steichen feels about Anthony Richardson.
Yes. And that'll be very much about it. Yeah.
Yeah. If he wants to work with him, if he likes him, thinks he could be the man, then hey, that's why you hired him.
Yep. You go for it.
Then you go for it.
Yep.
Do it. And if it doesn't work out, then both of you should be gone, because Ballard has done a good job. But now we're getting to the point where he did such a good job for those first few years with the issues he had with the cap, all that stuff. And then we're stalled. We're in stall phase. It's stalled for the past few years. And if he gets this wrong,
that's it.
It might be time to find a new general manager.
This is his last shot. I think this draft pick right here. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. And that's why, the Lamar Jackson issue. I mean, you bring up a different level of economic commitment to the quarterback position when you bring in Lamar. But that's why that's one of the reasons it's Ballard that, his history tells us it's all about going to get an established veteran
that
can get the job done. And that's the thing I keep coming back to, that if I had to pick a team. But again, I don't know if Lamar wants to play in Indianapolis. I just don't know if that's his city. So, again, I'm just going to repeat myself that I'm going to pretend he's not going to Indianapolis. And if he wants to go for Richardson because they have to do it the right way now, that'll be, the move that saves his career or ends it.
And Gardner Minshew, if there is a Richardson draft, you would think Minshew probably starts the whole year anyway. He
Absolutely.
knows the system. He's not a bad quarterback. He's a number 2, but he's a guy that could be a placeholder. He's a fine
Yep.
placeholder guy.
Absolutely.
Knows the system, so that would work out. Now, let's talk about, again, we agree with the edge rush. I also think that they definitely have to do something about wide receiver, because even though they got Isaiah McKenzie, that doesn't really do much.
No.
They need maybe another slot guy, and I'd say they might have to go and get a couple more receivers, really. And this would be, by the way, a wild card for someone like Washington at tight end for me.
Okay.
I know they like Granson. I know they like Woods. They seem to like Mo Alley Cox, and I don't know why, but they seem to. I think his days of being this, hey, look at what he could be, are over. He is what he is.
Right.
I could be wrong, but again, it also helps your offensive line, your blocking, which is another issue that they've had this offseason. They definitely have to do something about the right guard spot. That is a major hole. And they probably should draft a guy like your guy, Avila, somebody that could play both guard and maybe even center, because Ryan Kelly's better days have also been behind him.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if we're sticking with offense right now, the receiver position, I would love to see just a vertical threat. I think that's what Alec Pierce was drafted to do last year. And you did see him flash. He had a couple of big plays last year. But, the amount I watched him a lot last year, there was not a lot of separation. And I don't want to label him a deep threat just because he has a fast 40 and he can jump high, right? I think they need someone that can really stretch the defense. And that's really how you get the most effectiveness out of someone like Isaiah McKenzie and Michael Pittman. And is Pierce that guy? I don't see it. The thing about tight end, I agree with you. What would be funny if they drafted Darnell Washington is they would have the biggest tight end room in the history of big tight end rooms between Ollie Cox, Jelani Woods, and they just signed Pharaoh Brown from Cleveland. I think he's 6'7". So
that's why I said it, because he seems like a perfect fit.
He's the profile. Oh, absolutely.
For the Colts.
He is. Yeah. He's the profile. The question would be, does it make that room a little too crowded?
Because they'd have to. It would be one of those things where if they, like you said, if they traded back out of the forward position, then because if they don't, Washington's going to go what, top 20, top 25 maybe?
Top 25. Yeah, I don't think he makes it to day 2.
No.
So if they're going to want him, they're going to have
somebody's going to draft him a little early. He's that talented. So.
Dreamy tool. Yeah. So, and, I think the biggest needs on the team, though, are going to be on the defensive side. Yep. And, you have to look to the secondary first. I mean, they just traded away their best player, which was necessary financially, trading Gilmore to Dallas. But, I mean, who's playing corner there right now? And what's the plan for next year, right? I just, I like Kenny Moore, who I think they just re-upped him as a really good nickel. He's been kind of like one of the faces of that franchise for a long time. I love what they have in the middle of the field, too, just from a personnel perspective, but also a value perspective. I mean, the amount of money that Blackman, Rodney Thomas, even Nick Cross, they're making no money. So those guys, and they're good players. I think it's going to be a nice trio. But at corner, I think they're going to draft 2 corners this year, and it might be even with their first 4 picks.
And they also have to probably add at least a linebacker because they just don't know what they've got in Shaq Leonard at this point.
Yeah, and they lost Okereke. So, you're looking at potentially having 2, compared to last year, 2 new starting linebackers next year. And right now, what they have on that roster is not going to be good enough. So I agree. Linebacker, back 7 is really going to be a big focus for them defensively.
And as you were saying, look, the edge rushers, I don't know what Kwity Paye's ceiling is, but Samson Ebukam is nothing more than just a good rotation player. Adingbo, that's a nice player, just like Kwity Paye, but
they like him.
They need another edge rusher.
Yep. Add some competition. They'll have to add one at some point. Fortunately for them, incredibly deep edge group in this draft that you could be shopping for one day 3 that has a day 2 grade. That's going to happen. There will be day 2 edge defenders available on day 3. And this is the kind of situation where it really does help the most because they're not shopping hungry. They don't need a guy right now, but they're going to get someone that could fall in line with what they currently have. And to get that round 4, round 5 is a huge win.